shoulders. Let's get our bodies loose.
Service. Today is Transgender Day of Remembrance. It remembers those who have been killed in this past year because of their differences. Today we advocate for the protection, for justice, and for increased acceptance. Our youth group will lead that remembrance as the first part of our service. The second theme in our service is the theme of change, which is our theme for the month. Change here is in the ways that we relate to each other that allows us to be at the table and stay at the table together. The third theme for our service, of course, is the Thanksgiving holiday. We will celebrate that Thanksgiving together by sharing freshly baked corn mini muffins that I made this morning at 5 a.m. I don't know whether everything is going to fit together really smoothly or not, but the three themes are important, so I'll ask for your support in the attempt as we join together in the celebration of life. And let us begin our service by lighting our chalice, which Fred Eames, our service associate, will do. And we have the words on the screen, which you can read with me as he lights. Welcoming all free seekers of truth and meaning, we gather to excite the human spirit, to inspire its growth and development, to respond morally and ethically to a troubled world, and to sustain a vital and nurturing religious community. And I'd like to invite Adrian Cattell, our leader of our youth advisor for our youth group, to come and speak.
Good morning, everyone. Today is November 20th, 2022. This is the day every year when we remember those we've lost to violence stemming from transphobia. We call it Transgender Day of Remembrance. It is important to note we cannot acknowledge this day without also acknowledging systemic racism, for many of those we remember today are no longer here because not only were they transgender, they were also of color. To honor those we've lost, our youth group has written a song, which they will now play with us.
Especially moving to hear your words. As there was a shooting in Colorado Springs at the LGBTQ club, Club Q, and some people died yesterday. This is not like theoretical, this is real. So let us pray together for this Remembrance Day. This prayer was first offered in 2011 at First UU in Brooklyn as part of a service honoring this day. And I invite you to turn inward to receive these words. Spirit of life, God of many names and one transforming and abundant love, broaden our imagination to see you in the faces of all those we meet along the way. May your teachers come in all shapes and sizes, all genders and all sexes. And may we have the courage to hear their lessons so that our lives may be moved. We live in a world whose bodies are sometimes broken or broken down or weighed down under the burdens that none could hope to carry alone. We live in a world where we have all the capacity we ever needed to make another life that much easier. And yet we don't always use our power to help. We don't always allow others in. We don't always accept help when it is offered. We don't always know when we can no longer do it alone. Spirit of life, open our hearts to the community of souls that surround us. Allow your words to be softened before the miracle of being. Strengthen our voice so that it may be a source of service to others. And stir in us compassion when it is gone, temperance when we are in our might, and hope when it is hard to find. We especially hold dear this morning all the lives who have suffered harm for the bodies they were born into, for the genders whose expressions didn't stand up to the gaze of society, and the lives that were lost due to violence born of fear, of hatred, or of self-doubt. We pray for our youth who are wrestling with the choice of whether to live or to die. May our love, our compassion, and our commitment to seeing the world more free and more free-spirited help them find the hope they need to continue living. So be it. Let me say how humbled I am. Have my corn muffin praised in such a way, and I hope this year's batch measures up. I've published the recipe in the past, but there's really no substitute for the magic of getting here at 5 a.m. to start the baking process and my many years of practice. And this year, we have gluten-free vegan muffins with egg substitute that Jacob King gave me. And I tasted them one, and they're the best gluten-free, dairy-free, egg-free muffins I've made. So Thanksgiving is a time when many folks will be gathering with their relatives to share a meal around a common table. Folks who come together will be of different ages, genders, social and economic status, employment, politics, and many other differences. For this day, though, while sharing the meal, many will strive to be their best selves and try to get along with each other. The expression, "come to the table," as does the expression "welcome table," have special meaning for the descendants of enslaved peoples. Langston Hughes expresses it powerfully in this poem. I, too, sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes. But I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I, too, am America. Slaves were not permitted to eat at their master's table to enforce their inferior social status. In the Jim Crow era, people of color were excluded from dining establishments and luncheonettes. Iconic images of the 1960s civil rights demonstrations included sit-ins at lunch counters demanding to be served. Who gets to eat with whom is and has a charged racial history. The politics of who shares a meal together at table has a long history. In ancient times, who got to sit near the host was carefully controlled, especially in ancient Rome and Greece. Eating at the king's table was a high honor, as you might remember from the Esther story and Mordecai getting to eat at the table. Oh, actually, it was, the other guy. What's the other guy's name? I'm blanking on his name. And then Jesus, of course, shared his table with people who were not socially acceptable in his time. In more modern times, controlling the table membership carries over to politics and into corporate culture. Political deals are cut at tables that exclude their rivals. Open meetings laws seek to prevent them by making sure every meeting by our elected officials happens out in the open where they can be observed. Corporate and nonprofit boards and their directors meet around those long, shiny tables with the CEO often at the powerful position at the head of the table. Those who get to sit at that table have influence. Those excluded outside the room do not. Who talks and who listens matters a lot when it comes to wielding power. Those principles of power hold true in our congregation too. What's different for us is where is the location of the power. The power resides with the members of our congregation who elect our leaders. This is true for politicians who stand for election and to some degree for our corporate leaders who we vote for with our dollars. But while in office, they can delude themselves that the power they use is their own. Here we go to great lengths. We go to great lengths to remember that our congregation is setting the tables and the members are in charge. Most of our meetings are open and anyone can attend. We've made it a practice to set aside time at our Albany UU board meetings for our guests to have an ability to comment on our agenda items. We have a time of open business during the board meeting. When we have important decisions to make, we go to the congregation for their comment, their feedback, and if it's really important, a vote. It determines what we do. We are very open to allowing our members to come to the table. And yet, sometimes it is challenging to keep everyone at the table. Almost all of us have participated in meetings and been at tables where everyone gets frustrated and angry, where the people get frustrated with the group process. And the gathering doesn't go very well. And people leave disappointed, angry, and resentful. Sometimes there are a few people who dominate and use up all the verbal airspace. Sometimes those of us who are quiet can't fight their way into the conversation and feel ignored. Other times, dissenting voices are marginalized and not acknowledged. There are so many ways for clouds of words to bang up against each other, creating lightning and thunder that shocks people and everybody gets wet. Thanksgiving dinner can be one of those blowups. Group process methods, however, can help. I had an epiphany about organizational development, or OD as it's called, back in 1985. I had attended UU Pacific Central District Leadership School at the tender age of 28, and I didn't know a lot back then. During the training session about running effective committee meetings, we did a rather stressful exercise where the group process had a train wreck. Our process observer helped us to see how the exercise had broken down and what might have helped us at the time listen better to each other and might have resolved our conflict. I recognized how the meeting was facilitated was more important than whether we agreed with each other or not. Our relationships with each other mattered as much, if not more, than what we were trying to accomplish. Without one, the other couldn't have been accomplished satisfactorily. There are many skillful means to facilitate meetings that bring people together and help them stay at the table. There are a few that I'd like to highlight. One that's an oldie but a goodie is that talking stick. The person who has the stick in their hand can speak without being interrupted for the time it takes for them to make their point, and while they hold that stick and pass it along, it makes it clear who has the right to speak and who should be listening. Another kind of linked method is going around in a circle, taking turns, giving everyone the same opportunity to speak on the subject being discussed. An innovation on that method is going around the circle twice, giving everyone 2 opportunities to speak. That allows people to respond to and possibly incorporate what they have heard into their second sharing opportunity. Everyone can pass in each round, not speak. This is an excellent way to include quieter people who don't like to interrupt. Another group that may be quieter and harder to hear are historically marginalized people. A way to honor their voices is using what's called a progressive stack. At the UUA board meetings, we've been using this method. For the first few minutes of discussion, people with a marginalized identity are invited to speak first. This method appreciates that those with marginalized identities can bring a special lens to the discussion that may be very helpful. Consensus methods can also be very helpful to make sure all voices are heard, especially dissenting voices. I've seen one dissenting voice put a spotlight on an ethical issue that had been overlooked by the majority of participants at the table. One flaw no one had yet recognized got noticed when a person with a marginalized identity brought it up. Most of our decisions at the UUA board, as also happens at Albany UU board meetings, are consensus decisions. And it feels really good to come to consensus about whatever we're talking about. Even with good process, though, using the best techniques that are available, sometimes agreement is quite difficult. A lot of indigestion can be the result of discussing politics and religion while trying to enjoy a Thanksgiving meal. Depending on who you'll be eating with this year, it might be wise to stay away from talking about abortion, the Supreme Court, Twitter, Hunter Biden, January 6th, election fraud, and current or former presidents. While all problems can't be resolved with skillful process, there are other ways to get to solutions indirectly. The most important work at any table of people is building personal relationships between the participants. When we know each other and develop an appreciation for each other, it gets a lot easier to listen to each other and find accommodations for our differences. When we've found shared values, it is easier to accept our differences. Movement toward resolution happens when we move away from conflicting personalities and focus on our shared principles. As Unitarian Universalists like to say, and this gets misquoted as coming from Francis de Vide, probably most likely comes from John Wesley, we need not think alike to love alike. Community is a high value in our congregation because beliefs are not the central value that holds us together. The depth, care, and appreciation of our relationships matters a lot. When we can skillfully cultivate our relationships, especially through the changes that life keeps throwing at us, the bonds of our community strengthen. When we come together at the table and stay at the table together when times are difficult, our ability to work together magnifies the power of what we can do together. The differences between the Pilgrims and the Wampanoags were huge, yet they were able to come to the table and stay at the table together for almost 50 years. I imagine they had many conflicts, given their values were vastly different. But they found a way to live together and to learn from each other. And I'm hoping we can have the same rapprochement with the indigenous peoples of our area here. May we all have good celebrations for Thanksgiving Day, however you choose to celebrate. And if you truly can't stand being with your relatives this Thanksgiving, you can come join us here because we'll be having Thanksgiving dinner and we have a wonderful time. Sign up in Channing Hall. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Fred Eames, your service associate today. Before I introduce the offering, I need to note that with the exception of the OWL, OWL, grades 8 and 9, Sunday morning programming for children and youth ends at 11:15. If you have children in pre-K through 5th grade, please pick them up from their classrooms at this time, 11:15. Older kids will be released on their own at 11:15 to reconnect with their grown-ups. Please feel free to leave the service when it's time to pick up your children. Also, please note that this Sunday we will not be having joys and sorrows as part of our service. If you'd like to share a joy or sorrow, please use the link listed at the top of the page in your order of service, or speak with one of the pastoral care associates on duty today. And today they are Annie Lipinski and Sharon Babala. An important way we celebrate life each Sunday is by offering an opportunity to practice generosity. Members and friends support our congregation with an annual pledge paid throughout the year. Another way to support good work of this congregation is by making a generous contribution as we pass the plate, or via one of the options shown on the next slide. If you are joining us virtually, you can click on the tiny URL link in the chat window to contribute, or you can send a text to the number shown on the screen. The examples on the slide show how to label your text to indicate the amount and the purpose of your gift. We'll now say goodbye to our Facebook friends. Consider joining us on Zoom next time, or visit us in person at 405 Washington Avenue in Albany. You can find more information at albanyuu.org. Our offertory music is At the Table by Jonas Aaron and Dana Menzel. It will be presented by the
You could find this sheet, the order of service, or you can just watch what you see up there on the screen as we do this litany of thanksgiving, our prelude to sharing corn muffins together. Naked and completely vulnerable, we came into this world. We needed to be nursed, swaddled, and sheltered. Our caregivers cared and played with us, guided our first steps, opened doors for us, and sacrificed for us. For these gifts, I am grateful.
We grew up in various kinds of communities. For almost all of us, these communities sought to keep us safe and to bring us fresh water, take away our waste, maintain our roads, and protect us from fire, ice, and snow.
These gifts, I am grateful. When our security was threatened, our friends, family, and neighbors sought to defend us. When natural disasters struck, members of our community helped their neighbors get back on their feet. And when leaders needed to be selected or decisions made, they voted. These gifts, I'm grateful.
Countless ancestors who came before us strove to build a better world for our benefit. At times, they received kindness, like what Native Americans offered, who helped the Pilgrims survive their first winter. Each one of us has received an abundance of blessings handed down through countless generations.
These gifts, I'm grateful. We have not always been appreciative. We have taken these gifts for granted or failed to share those gifts. At one time or another, we've refused to recognize and understand the harm we have done, damaged our precious bodies, squandered our ancestors' legacies, and neglected the need of our neighbor. For these harms, I feel remorse.
Justly or unjustly, our ancestors were attacked and attacked others. Many of our ancestors were driven from their homes and homelands in the names of religious truth and financial profit. Our ancestors founded new homes and lives on unjustly confiscated lands. We and our ancestors have benefited from plundering our planet's natural resources in ways that have harmed the soil and fouled the air and water.
Fortunately, we are not controlled by the past. We have the opportunity to rededicate ourselves or to choose a different path. We can resolve to stop the cycles of violence. We can make a commitment to heal and repair those harms. We can stand together to build a better world, remembering the gifts we inherit, the good and harm we have done. Let us begin again in love. Today, I resolve to end the violence and peace. I resolve to learn about, heal, and repair harm. I choose to begin again in love.
We gather here to create a community guided by love. Each Sunday, we renew our commitment to that cause by welcoming all free seekers, by exciting and inspiring our spirits, responding to trouble and sustaining one another, inspired with gratitude for our blessings and our opportunities. Let us renew our commitment to choose love and life over fear and death.
Inspired with gratitude for our blessings and our opportunities, I'm ready to answer the call of love. Thank you. For thousands of years, people all over the world have gathered on festive occasions to share in the eating of special foods as symbols of the earth's bounty and of the gifts of God and nature. Bread is the special food in both the Jewish Passover Seder and Christian communion.
On this American Thanksgiving, we celebrate and remember in a symbolic way the bounty of nature, the changing of the seasons, and the precious heritage of our American and Haudenosaunee traditions of freedom, tolerance, and democracy.
Corn is sacred to the indigenous peoples who gave this sacred gift to pilgrim ancestors. Corn symbolizes our abundant harvest and reminds us of that shining moment at Plymouth when all of our ancestors found harmonious relationship. So with freshly baked corn muffins, we acknowledge and celebrate and give thanks for all the abundant gifts and our commitment to work to make things better. As you receive your muffin, please hold it. You can examine it, smell it, but please refrain from eating it while we distribute them to everyone. These muffins are all lactose-free, and we do have the vegan gluten-free muffins for those who need or desire them. So I invite my ushers to come forward. And as you pass the basket to the person next to you, I encourage you to use words such as, in the spirit of thanksgiving, I offer you a muffin.
When we share these fresh muffins, let us be mindful of those whose labor, love, energy, and creativity go into the growing, distributing, and preparing of our food. Let us think of the rich earth in which grain and other foods grow, and let us resolve to protect that earth so that future generations may also reap rich harvests. When we share these muffins, let us think of those things for which we have been thankful this year, and of those with whom we are called to share our bounty, both materially and spiritually.
Now, with gratitude for the earth, for life, for seeds, for flowers and fruit, for the labor of planting and caring for harvesting and preserving the gifts of nature, let us enjoy how good it is for this community to eat together in gratitude.
Well, we would like to get to know guests and visitors to our service today. If you'd like to tell us who you are and where you're from, those here in the community hall should stand and raise your hand. The usher will bring you a microphone so that everyone can hear you. Those joining us on Zoom can click on the raised hand symbol. Our technician will invite you to unmute yourself and introduce yourself. You can also click on the visitor link that you will find in the chat window.
Hi, I'm Lara Bowen. I live in Albany and this is my first time here. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, Frank Quinn from Hope, Alaska, visiting family.
Let's see, anybody on Zoom?
We have no raised hands on Zoom at this time.
Well, thank you, and welcome to all who have joined us today. If you'd like to learn more about our congregation or Unitarian Universalism, you can stop by the table in the lobby and speak with Barbara Manning, who is our welcome table host today. On Zoom, you can find the participant window someone with welcome before their name. You can reach out to that person in the chat window. There will also be opportunities to socialize and welcome newcomers after the service, both for those on Zoom and for those here in Community Hall. Now, let's see, announcements. There are some printed announcements in the bulletin, which I will not read now. And are there any announcements here on?
I have no pre-submitted announcements for today.
Okay. And I have two that were submitted to me by hand. From Chuck Manning, the Green Sanctuary team is meeting today in room B7. Come join us to learn how we are working to be more green. And from Karen Kaufman, the UU vote team is once again sending Get Out the Vote postcards to marginalized voters in the important coming Georgia runoff election for the U.S. Senate. We have a number of extra cards for this campaign that must be mailed out by this coming Wednesday. If you're interested in helping with this effort, please see Karen Kaufman right after the service. So that's the announcement.
All right. This is adapted from a Thanksgiving blessing by Naomi King. Let us join our hearts in gratitude where we have the abundance of our lives before us. As we prepare for Thanksgiving, may we remember all those who do not have enough, who are afraid, who are lonely, and who suffer. May we wish for the abundance of this world to be shared, for fear to become love, for the lonely to feel welcomed, and for the suffering to know rest and joy. For the labor, the love, the care that gave us the delights of this and every day, we say, if you could repeat with me, thanks. For the nourishment of our spirit, the challenges that strengthen us, and the friends we have on the journey, we sing thanks. For all that is our lives, for these good gifts, we whisper thanks. Overflowing with gratitude, let us shout thanks. And let us conclude with a song. You want to? I know Olga's anxious to share with us something about this song.
As we extinguish the chalice, please join in the words shown on the screen. We extinguish this flame, not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Those on Zoom are encouraged to join a breakout room for conversation and fellowship. You can click to accept the breakout room assignment when it appears on your screen. Those in Community Hall are invited to attend the coffee hour. We especially encourage guests and visitors to join us for coffee and refreshments. Anyone on Zoom or in Community Hall is welcome to attend a congregational response to discuss the service topic. You can stay here, you can stay in the same Zoom meeting or right here in Community Hall. And the discussion will begin in a few minutes. Those wishing to socialize with others are asked to exit Community Hall so that the congregational response can start promptly. We're glad you joined us today. This concludes our service.